Good morning, everyone, and thanks for the introduction, Stu. Just a quick introduction to Ballard. We listed on the ASX July 14. Ballard was demerged out of Delta Lithium. The asset had sat within Delta for a number of years. Well, indeed, Delta's precursor, Red Dirt Metals, originally purchased Mount Ida for the gold, subsequently discovered lithium, pivoted hard into lithium, raised $120 million to fund their lithium ambitions. But the gold has always sat there. We looked at a number of ways to monetise the gold, toll treating, JVs, and in the end, it was decided that the best course of action was to spin Mount Ida out into Ballard Mining and do an IPO to fund its own development. So we raised $30 million in July at 25 cents, and so I'm pleased to be able to give you an update on the Ballard strategy. This presentation's on the website, went out yesterday. Just in terms of location, this is where we are, a couple of hours north of Cal. So you drive from Kalgoorlie 80 k's up the road towards Menzies, and then it's about another 80 k's out from Menzies to the project site. First rule of real estate: postcode, postcode, postcode. We're surrounded by some well-known household names: Volt, Genesis, as Stu touched on earlier with Michael Fowler. And I think the best analogue for us is Ora Banda, directly to the south. It's the same greenstone belt, same geology, same predominant underground mining method, and that's certainly what we've got planned for Mount Ida. We listed with a 1.1 million ounce resource at 3.3 grams per tonne. I guess we put this slide up and people ask us about potential for toll treating operations. There's obviously a lot of processing capacity in the region, but certainly the Ballard strategy is to build for standalone scale. We're targeting a 10-year mine life, and I'll run you through how we plan on doing that. So what we've been talking about since the prospectus and the use of funds is this grow and development strategy. As I said, we came out of the starting blocks with a 1.1 million ounce resource. Of that 1.1, 930,000 ounces of 4.1 is located at a single prospect called Ballard. We're 60% of the way through an infill drilling program at Ballard. The Ballard area, it's fully permitted for mining. We're on granted mining leases. There's no native title. Fully approved for both open pit and underground mining. And we've submitted a works approval to DWER, that's the WA state government agency, to build a standalone processing plant and tail storage facility. And we expect to have that approval literally within the next couple of weeks. DWER have verbally advised us that we've ticked all the boxes, and now we're literally just waiting for the delegate to sign off on that. And at that point, we'll be fully permitted for both mining and processing. The met test work we've done, we've advanced both met and geotechnical pre-feas level of detail. The Ballard area, that's free milling, non-refractory, and amenable to conventional serial processing. So Ballard does the heavy lifting of the project, if you like. That's the first 5 or 6 years of the mine life. There is a mine at Ballard. We're very confident of that, but in terms of our ambition for genuine standalone scale, a 10-year mine life, we need a little bit more inventory, and we plan on growing that organically, purely through exploration upside. We've got 26 kilometres of underexplored prospective greenstone belts. We're putting 50,000 metres into the ground by way of a dedicated exploration drilling program. And as I said at the start, we raised 30 million in the IPO, so we're well funded. We're pinning our ears back, and we're having a red hot crack. So just those two work streams in a timeline, the grow and development. So as I said, so the Ballard, 930,000 ounces at 4. By the middle of next year, we anticipate coming out with a maiden reserve for Ballard, 400,000 to 500,000 ounces, and that'll underpin the first 5 or 6 years of a mine life As I said, not quite enough for a genuine standalone scale. So with growth or exploration from the drill bit, we're targeting to add another 400,000 to 500,000 ounces, and by this time next year we will have a robust 6-year plan underpinned by Baldock to a reserve at a reserve level, and hopefully visibility over a 10-year plan with exploration success. There's our board. I use the term mature not because it's middle-aged white men, but just some of the calibre of the board, and I guess the mandate that the board is giving the management team. We don't want to be distracted by toll treating or anything else. We're funded. We've got the exploration upside or potential, and the board wants the management team to understand what Mount Ida could be. In no particular order, Stuart Matthews, until he retired a couple of years ago, he was Executive Vice President for Goldfields Australasia. He's used to looking at big camp-scale projects, big exploration budgets. Tim Manners, he's the Exec Director alongside myself. Tim was with Ramilius during a very formative period. Ramilius is just about to enter the ASX 100. They're a $6 billion company. I'm a mining engineer. Most of my background is in operations, predominantly gold and predominantly underground. And Simon Lill is our chairman. Probably needs no introduction. He was at De Grey for that entire journey. I guess both Stuart and Simon, the two non-execs, they're very clear in their mandate to the management team is let's understand what Mount Ida is before we start locking in process flow sheets, talking about FID or anything like that. We just want to understand the upside. And finally, James Crozer, he's the Delta rep on our board, and I'll talk a little bit more about the capital structure towards the back end of the slide deck. So this is Baldock. So this underpins the first 5 or 6 years of the mine life, does all the heavy lifting, 930,000 ounces at 4. The chart to the left is the ounces per vertical metre. The old rule of thumb, pre 5,500 Aussie gold price, was anything north of 1,000 ounces per vertical metre was what you had an economic underground mine. So you can see there on that long section in the upper levels of the mine where we've got, or the upper levels of the resource, where we've got good drill hole density, sort of 2,500 ounces per vertical metre. We're very confident there's a mine there. We're busy with the infill drilling, 80,000 metres of infill drilling to convert the inferred resource to indicated. The key modifying factors of geotech and MET underway. We've put out 3 lots of infill announcements with respect to Baldock. The most recent was on Monday. I haven't included any of those in this presentation, but Baldock's, in terms of the infill drilling, it's doing what it said on the tin. We're very pleased with the results thus far. And I guess really the exploration potential is what we're most excited about. 26 kilometres of underexplored prospective greenstone shear. This is another example of a project that's never been owned by a major. We've got 18 identified walk-up exploration targets, and we're just systematically working our way through those exploration targets. So I'll just start with on the western side of that flank, the Baldock Thrust, as the name suggests, it hosts Baldock. I'm not sure how well you can see that on the screen, but as I said, this presentation's on the website and on the ASX rather. But certainly, of that 13-kilometre greenstone belt, there's an immediate 7 kilometres to the north of Baldock. Lots of smoke, lots of historic drilling, historical shafts, average drill hole depth of 43 metres. And 670 odd holes drilled in the last 20 years since Baldock was discovered. So, with the use of funds, the 30 million we've raised, we're putting 10 million of that straight into the ground, just purely for exploration drilling. This on the eastern side, the other 13-kilometre flank, the Ballard fault, we call it. The very first exploration target that we drilled was Neptune. We went to Neptune first because of historical underground workings and high-grade rock chips. As you can see on the screen, 86 gram per tonne rock chips, and and we've made a discovery at Neptune. We put that out last week. So very pleasing result, particularly for the site-based team. A fair reward for the conviction that's there. The guys on site are particularly excited about the Ballard fault in particular because of the historical workings and high-grade rock chips. And what we're doing with this exploration program, as I said, 18 identified initial targets. We're going to hit all of those targets just with a short RC program or a smaller RC program, and then as assays are returned from the lab, we'll use that information to inform a follow-up phase 2, more comprehensive diamond and RC program. We've drilled the immediate targets to the north of Neptune, another 5 prospects. Again, same recipe, historical workings, high-grade rock chips. Those samples are in the lab, and we're just waiting for assays to be returned, and we expect to be able to make another announcement on that within the next probably 4 to 6 weeks. Some of these prospects have never had a drill hole in them. Just quickly to the capital structure. As I said, the asset was demerged out of Delta. Delta received 220 million shares in Ballard as the consideration for the asset. Delta then in-specied about 30% of those to existing shareholders. So Delta's retained around 156 million shares, or 46% of the register. They are escrowed for 2 years. That's a hard lock. The only way that can be removed is if someone takes the company over. As part of that in-specie distribution, a couple of Delta's main shareholders, Hancock, Minres, Idemitsu, through the in-specie distribution and participating in the priority offer, they've come out as substantial shareholders of Ballard in their own right. And then as we raised another 120 million issued 120 million shares at 25 cents to give us the 340 million shares on issue. The share price, I think we're sitting around 50 cents, gives us a market cap of 167, EV around $120 an ounce, and that's important for the next slide. This is our peer group. Everyone loves the comp slide except for the ASX, it would seem, but all the data that supports that is in the appendices of the presentation. I guess there's 2 things that stand out for Ballard when we look at that comp slide. One is the grade. In the red dots, you can see us on the right-hand side of our resource grade of 3.3 grams per tonne. The high-grade explorer developers are afforded a higher EV per ounce, around $218 per ounce. And probably the second key thing there is our advanced permitting status. There's not another company on that page that has the same advanced permitting status as what we've got. So as I said, in a couple of weeks' time, we'll receive our works approval for a processing plant, and at that point we've ticked every box there is to tick to go and build that mine. The only thing we're waiting on is to pad out that inventory. As I said, we want 6. We're chasing 10 years. A 10-year mine life, so we just need to pad out that 6 to 10 years, which we're confident we'll do over the next 12 months. And once we're there, we're in a really good position to move the project forward quickly. So just to hit the high notes, we've come out of the starting blocks of the 1.1 million ounce resource, 930,000 ounces at a single prospect Baldock. As I've reiterated, this time next year we'll hopefully have a 6-year mine life underpinned by reserve at Baldock and visibility over a 10-year plan with exploration success. And as I've just touched on, the advanced permitting status, and we've still got an attractive EV per resource ounce on a peer comp basis. Thanks very much.